The hours pass in the day, and Jace lays among the trees, still feeling like his body won't listen to him in trying to move past the events that had just taken place. With the sun now starting to set behind the forest line, he is ripped from his thoughts by the sounds of Zen rushing throughout the cabin door after Root, who is dashing into the forest just as wild as the first day that Jason BC found it as a field mouse. Whoa, back to its old self, I see, Jace says, picking himself up off against one of the surrounding trees in more of a cheery mood than recently. Root should be alright. The healing magic did its job, but the creature's mind has been wiped clean in the process, Zen announces with a concerned look on his face. BC's face almost goes white as the words, "Where's Sid?" slips from her lips. Jace feels the fear of what is to come next and doesn't even bother to stay behind with the others. With the branches breaking and the thick of the leaves blurring his vision, Jace desperately tries to follow Root's trail, all while trying to locate Sid. Before long, Jace loses the trail and begins to panic. Okay, I got to find Sid first. If Root finds him as a wolf, who knows what will become of him. A handblade isn't going to stop a wolf Rutaga. Believing a calmer approach will help, Jace focuses on hearing for any signs of either of them. As Jace pays attention to the thickened forest, he climbs the closest well-structured tree near him, still trying to be as quiet as possible to hear of any sign of either of his teammates. Suddenly, a loud, frightening yell comes from the obstruction in which he was peering into, and without a second thought, he follows its call, hoping he won't be too late. Following a tree hanging by its roots over a cliff, he reaches the bottom where the noise had come from and finds Root growling at Sid's backside, eyes glowing with immense sparks. Jace begins his rescue only to stop in his tracks as the full picture comes into view. Standing before all three of them is a mighty four-headed forest beast, each head emanating a different element from its mouth. Root is able to put up more of a fight against the creature as it uses its power to evade the blast directed at it, and with the beast's attention focused on Root, Sid does his best as he can to run along its side and strike at the monster's tendons with his stubby blade. Relieved that Root wasn't after Sid, Jace watches as the two work as a team to take down the giant creature, being sure he will step in if he must. Rah! Sid yells, digging his knife as deep as possible into the scaly skinned fur, but is tossed against the wall of branches with a jerk of its body. Jace again feels the urge to react to save Sid from taking a blow which would most likely kill him, but is halted when Root's lightning makes a net to catch him. A flash of what Zen had said about Root's mind begin eased. Begins to ease as it's quickly understood to be something else entirely. And Jace watches in disbelief as Root turns to face the four-headed beast head on, knowing that Sid will not be able to stand against it. Sid, realizing that he is no match and will only interfere from here on out, looks around for a way out of the beast's disturbed nest. Jace jumps into the fray to give Sid a hand and lands on a stick, making a fallen traveler remains shoot upwards at Sid. Gah! Sid says with a quick dance of the heebie-jeebies. Hey Sid, sorry about that, Jace says, poking his head out from behind the armed vagabond's remains. Oh, thank God, it's just you. I've been having some real poor luck lately, Sid responds before noticing what the vagabond was holding. Whoa, would you look at that blade, Sid states in awe before plucking it from the rotting corpse. Jace says as Sid wields the long blade with ease and finesse. I'm going to try to give a hand to Root again, Sid says with a newfound hope in his weapon, and Jason nods, removing himself from the bundle of sticks that make up the giant nesting ground. As Jace returns to the outer edge of the wooden cliff, he can hear noises from the depths of the surrounding forest drawing nearer. It's not soon before BC and Zen burst through the covered in scratches and twigs. Doesn't seem that Root lost its memory after all, Jace says, pointing to the two of them battling back the teeth-beaked and claws of the creature. Root was hurrying to help Sid. I couldn't understand why Root was acting so frantic after we healed its broken teeth, Zen says, now relieved that everyone is okay. It must have sensed that its friend was in grave danger, Jace replies, as Zen and Jace admire how well their team works together once more. They are broken from their stare as a loud whistle booms from behind them, and as they turn to see BC jump from the nest's edge to free fall and have Root catch her. Surprised but struck with shock, Jace watches as Root comes to her side with lightning speed. As the two land at the bottom of the nest, BC pats Root and begins to walk towards the aggressive four-headed beast with arms spread open wide. At first, the monster of a creature roars at her and stands up to show its size, but BC continues to walk forward, not showing any sign of fear to the creature. The mystical beast lowers its front legs back onto the ground, causing a gust of wind to push hard against BC, with sticks and twigs being tossed into the air around her. She must close her eyes to block them from tearing up. With the beast now standing toe-to-toe with her, BC raises her hands high to reach for one of its heads. As one of the heads lets out a strong and fearing howl, another lowers its head to greet her, sniffing curiously. Whoa! Sid stands with his newfound strength, only to be struck as well in the same shock of awe as what he was seeing before him. Lifting its head up to speak with its others, they bicker to one another before one of them gets ganged up on with growls and screeches. With its enormous snout, it brings its head down to approach BC with caution. There, old thing, it's okay now, she says, placing her hand on its nose of the giant beast. Its nose breathes in and out, smelling her in before it lifts its head back up in another frightening howl. As the trees around it shake from its tremendous force, the creature slowly backs away and returns to its eggs it was protecting from being harmed. Everyone turns and looks at Sid with suspicion. I was just collecting wood for the fire, I swear. Sid bursts, trying to show that he didn't even see the eggs, but understands that they would make for a good meal for the group. The beast looks at Sid with disgust, continuing to try to focus on everyone around it. Hey Sid, let's find some wood elsewhere and get some dinner started, shouts Zen from the top of the nest. Sounds like a good idea to me. Sid replies and starts to climb up the nest wall with his new weapon strapped to his side. Sid makes it halfway up the nest when loud thumps of the four-headed beast could be heard from behind him. Hey, whoa, hi, hey there. Take it easy, I'm leaving, okay? Sid says, grabbing hold of the wooden wall in fear. The creature reaches out and takes Sid by the collar of his shirt, lifts him and releases him back at the top of the ledge, pulling some sticks from its nest and dropping them on top of Sid. The beast canters back to its eggs and curls up around them. The whole time, Jace stood watching in amazement at how this beast of the elements could possibly be a helpful aid to them. Sid and Zen hurry off to start a dinner for the group, talking about all the excitement that had just happened in such a short amount of time. BC still remained at the bottom of the nest with Root, and Jace jumps down to join them. What are you thinking? Jace asks BC, still wanting to pat Root but not able to get close enough for Root to be in reach. I think you already know what I'm thinking, Jace, and what you and I know are the same thing. It makes no difference. BC's words cut through him as cold as ice, but her voice remains soft. We should head back then, and talk with everyone about how we should deal with what needs to be done, Jay says with a heavy heart, thinking of how hard it would be for a mother to leave its eggs to help them on such a destructive journey. BC stares at Jace for a second before responding. Shut it. Let's get back and deal with what really needs to be dealt with. We can do this without this creature. Aye, Captain, Jace says, trying to ease the tension, and he can't help but see Root's tail wag a few times to show its approval. Making their way out of the forest with a soaring leap by Jace, They arrive back at the campsite just before dusk, where they are met with a hot dinner of meat, bread, and vegetation from within the forest and Zen's private food bins. Root is short behind them to pop out of the dense forest, panting from having to use its physical form to keep the forest from catching fire. As Jace sets BC down to the ground, Root is quick to place its head in Jace's resting hand. Oh, Root says, trying to apologize for darting away from him when Jace needed Root the most. But Jace understands that he is not the only person with demons on his mind. That's a good boy, Jace says, knowing that the Rutaga doesn't have a gender, and crouches down to pat and scratch it behind the ears like old times. So what's next? Says Sid, stirring a pot of rice. We need to go see if we can find the followers, of course, says Jace, breaking some bread into pieces for everyone. Well, we've got one down, right? Zen says, pointing to his spoon at the sack that holds Boneyard's remains. I know where we should go next, BC says, with her head buried down in her bowl. A single tear falls into it. Jace can already tell that what had happened, Jace can already tell that what he had said as Broski was the problem, and he puts his arm around her shoulder and places a kiss on her temple. I'm sorry. I wish it wasn't this hard to love me. But I will try to keep my promise and not hurt you with the best of my abilities, Jace says before letting go. So should we head back to that place and see if we can find any clues? Sid asks the team. We could, but I don't think it will do us any good now. Too much time has passed for there to be any upper hand left to gain by going back. If my assumptions are correct, Zen croaks, trying to lift himself up to head inside. We'll try to gain some headway tomorrow. Jason and Sid get up to follow and start to make their way inside as well. Hey, you coming in? Jace asks BC, who still had her head down. There was a long pause before she replied, huh? Yeah, I'll be right in.